Welcome to Macrocode. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. Today we are going to create a simple ASP.NET Core API in .NET 9. So if you're new to this channel and you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing, like the video, and let's begin this particular episode. So I'm using Visual Studio 2022. So I'm going to create a new project. Then on this project, we are going to choose ASP.NET Core Web API template. So this is a project template for creating a RESTful Web API using ASP.NET controllers or minimal APIs. So I'll just, so if you just come here and type API, you'll be able to see you have some templates. So the one you are going to choose is this one for C#. Then if you proceed, then you'll be able to see the folder that you are going to have the project added. So I'll choose the project that I'm going to, that is the folder location that I'm going to add. But here we can actually first give it the name of the project. So these will be our students management API. So this API, this is the name of our API. Then here is the location. So I'm going to choose the location. So here we have my location. Then this is the solution. So I'll say place solution and project in the same folder. So then I proceed to next. Then here we have different frameworks. So I'm going to use, so you can see we have .NET 7.0, which is actually out of support. Then we have .NET 8, which is on long-term support. Then .NET 9.0, which is on standard term support. So we are going to have our application on .NET 9. Then here we have the authentication types. I'm going to have it as none. Then configure HTTPS support. Then enable OpenAPI support, and we are going to use controllers. So I'll just click on create. Then our API will be created. So as the project creates, we notice 90% of you are watching our series and you haven't subscribed. Please, if you're new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and let's begin this particular series. So here we have our program.cs file. We have our weather forecast folder. So this weather forecast, so we have our weather forecast class, Then we have the program.cs. Then we have our controllers, which is under weather forecast controllers with sample data. Then we have our properties folder, and we have these as our project. So let's just relaunch, launch this particular API and see what it has. So we are going to test this. Then we'll be adding some new things. So that is connection to the database, also configuration of our API to ensure that we are either doing versioning and adding some things. So let's just launch this and see how it looks like. So our application has launched, but for you to see it, so our application has launched. So to begin, we are going to locate, so we'll just do here localhost. Then we provide our port 20. So if you just put the port, you'll be able to see that you cannot actually access anything. So for you to see it, you'll just do OpenAPI, then v1.json. So that is how you'll be able to see. So let me see. So I just put, let me confirm the port for, so that is 5091. So you can see this is my API now. So previously, when you launch the API on .NET 8 and you just open, that is launch the API, you'll be able to have that open in on our browser without you accessing. But for this one, you need to actually, you need to pass the OpenAPI v1.json. So you can see we have the student API, we have the get a weather forecast, and these are the types of so there are some of the endpoints that we're going to have. So you see here, we have our URLs. We have the 70, 20, and 5091. Then this is the version. So in this episode, we are going to learn how we can actually use these OpenAPI, or we can even add Swagger. So I know most of you are used to Swagger, and we are going to see that how we can actually do that in this particular episode. So the first thing that we are going to do is we can also include Swagger here. So, and how to do that, we can add the Swashbuckle. So you right click on the project, new NuGet package. Then if we just come here, we can do Swashbuckle, and we'll be able to add our, so you can see we have it here. So we are going to add Swashbuckle SPNet core Swagger. So if we install this, you can actually have these accept, and we can also have these there. So let's just install that. Then if we have these two, then we can actually include it in our, we can include it on our API. So if we come back here, so we can have, so here instead of that we can do builder. So I'll just do builder, then dot services, then dot, so you can say dot add endpoints explorer. Then here I can also have builder, then dot can add Swagger gen. So if I just do this, I can import Swagger. Let's just confirm. So these add Swagger gen. So this one, let's just confirm. Here we can add Swagger UI, this one. So let's just add these two. So if we do that, and we can add this. So if we add that, then if we come back here, we can add this. So you can see we have our Swagger gen there. Then here we can now comment this OpenAPI. We can also comment OpenAPI. Then you can add our, you can say app dot use Swagger, and we can also say app dot use Swagger UI. So if we relaunch this API, we should now be able to see the Swagger UI on our API instead of OpenAPI. So if I just come here and do 70 localhost, then we do that. Then we can do here /Swagger. Then you'll see our API in Swagger. So you can see we have our API using Swagger. So I don't know which OpenAPI that is documentation do you prefer. So there is this, and we can also have the OpenAPI one. So let's see if we can use both. So if we just do that, and I launch this, then you can actually see both. So if we do this, see we have this, and we also have this. So currently Microsoft doesn't provide Swagger as a default template or API documentation on .NET 9. So when you create the API on .NET 9, then you'll be able to access the endpoints on OpenAPI v1.json the first time you create it. So, but you can still use Swagger. So as you can see, this is what we've done. Also, if you come here, so if you come here, you can actually say use Swagger UI. Then you can provide options here. So you can say options, and we can have, you can say this is the options. Then you say options, then dot Swagger endpoint. Then we can actually say, we can do here, we can provide this. We say /open API, then v1.json, then we can do here, comma, then we do Swagger. So if we do that, then we close this, then we are still good. So if we just relaunch the app here, if we relaunch the app, then we just have Swagger, then we can be able to see all the endpoints that we have. So if we go back here and then we just do /swagger, you still be having the same thing. So you see, and you can try it out. So if you execute, then you'll be able to see we have the data from our controller. So that's one way of doing it. So OpenAPI is widely adopted specification for defining and documenting HTTP APIs. So it actually offers a standard approach to describing API endpoints and requests, and even gives you the flexibility to do various things that you want. So you can also customize the OpenAPI option here. So if we come back here for our OpenAPI, we can also do options. So we can also do options. Then here can do this. So then can close it here. Then inside here we can have, so let me zoom it so that you're able to see. So let me zoom it so that you can see. So here on our OpenAPI, we can do options, then add document transformer. Then we can say here document. So I'll just say document, then context. Then I'll do cancellation token, cancellation token. Then here you can do, let me just do here this way. Then here I can do document. Then I say .info .version. So I can put in my version. So I'll say equals to, this is a string. So I'll say 9.1. Then I'll also have, so I can close this here. Sorry, I can close this here. Need to close this. Sorry. So this should be, we need to open this that way, and I can close this here and have this way. So that's okay now. So here I can now put in comma. Then I can do here document.info. I can put in title. So I can say here this is a demo macro code .NET 9.0 API. Then I can do that. Then we can also do documents.info .description. So you can provide the description. Then we can do here, this is our API demonstration for OpenAPI customization in .NET 9.0 project. So that is our description. Then if you go back here, and so if we go back here, you can also can do document dot terms of service. So this is info. You can do terms of service. Then you can say, can put in a link. So you can do that. Then you can have URI. Then you can actually do that. Then you can put in a link for terms of service. So I'll just add this here. Then we can close it that way. You can also do documents.info, then .contact. So you can put in the contact. So we can do here new OpenAPI contact. So this is the one. I'll just do here OpenAPI. Then I'll import. So if I just do this, I'll say using Microsoft.OpenAPI models. Then inside this, I can have my name. I have here, I can say Badia Korir. Then here, I can say email. I can have my email macro code. So here we can do, if you want to reach us, you can do backend coders at gmail.com. Then here I can also do URL. So I'll say that is our new URI. So then we can have our link. So that is, then we'll be using this one. So after that, we can close that. I can do here that way. Then you can also do document .info then .license. So then we can say here new OpenAPI license. Then we scroll up. Then we can have here, can have the name. So you can say the name equals to, can have MIT license. Then here you can also have the URL. So you can do that. Then you can have the link of the MIT license. So for me, I just paste this for now, just for testing purpose. But remember here we need to do new URI. That's then we can close this that way. Then that's okay. So we need to also close this. Then here we can now say return task, then say dot completed task. So we now have our OpenAPI specs customized. Then you can also do some modification on the document here. You can have the security URLs and the things. So if we launch this now, so let's try to launch this. So we can say this is a macro code. So this is so if we launch this, we can access our API the way we now want, and you can have these descriptions. So if you go back here, you can see we still have our API. You see, this is our API demonstration for OpenAPI customization. Terms of service. This is the name. You have the sender. You can actually, if you click on it, it will open for the email. You have the license and the things. So if you come back here, we'll also be having the same thing. So you can see info. You have the title, description, the terms of service, contact person, email, license, name, URL, and the version. Same case here, we also have that as the version. So once we have that, then we can start doing some items on our API. So I want us to go back to our API, and I want us to add a folder called models. So this is models. So, but before that, I want us to add some NuGet package. So we have EFCO. So that's one of the, so we need to add this. Then I want us to connect our application with SQL Server. So we need to add Microsoft Entity Framework Code.SQL Server. So choose that as well. Then I also want us to add EF tools. and you can also include design. So you can also include this. So you can also include this. So once we have this, then we can create our application and connect this to the database. So we can create our model. So let us create a model for student. So we'll call this student, and this is our model. So on our student model, I want us to add some properties. So I'll say public int ID. You can have the name. So you can have here first name. So that will be our, then we have the last name. Then we have our email. We can have the phone number. So let's just do phone number. Then we can have our address, city. Then you can have, let's do state. You can have, let's just postal code, country. I think that's enough. So you can have these properties for now. So since we have this, we need to now create our connection to the database. So the first thing that we need to do is we are going to create our application DB context. So we'll just come here. Then we are creating a folder. Let's call it data. Then here, let's create a class called, here we are going to call it application DB context. So application DB context. So our application DB context, I want us to have these as a, so here we'll do DB context. So that is, you should be using Entity Framework Core. Then here we need to have our application DB context option, then application DB context. Then here we see we need to set our table. So we are going to import the models, and you can see we have these as our table name. It will be students. So, but before doing that, we need to add the connection to our database. We can add that on our app settings.json. So here we need to do connection string. You can see that is our connection string. Then we need to have our default connection, then the server. So I already have my server address, so I'll just add it here. So the server, if you open your SQL server, so this is how it looks. So the server name, this will be my server name. So I'll just copy this. So if you connect it, then you can now connect our database. So let's create a database called Student API. Students API. So that is our database name. So here, this will be our database name. I'll copy the database name, go back to our API. Then we'll have the database name here. Then trusted connection, have it as true. Then trust server certificate, have it as true, and allow multiple active result sets, have that as true. So after you have that, so the next thing that you need to do is to register that on our program.cs file. So the first thing that we need to have is come back here. Then we need to have our connection to the database. So that is the suggestion. So you can see we have our RDB context. Then we have our application DB context. We need to borrow it from data. Then our options, we are using SQL Server. We need to import using Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. Then get connection, default connection. So after doing that, then we have everything that we wanted on our application. So we can also add something here. We can say builder.services can do add database. Can say add database. You can let's just do with this. So since we have this, we need to now add migrations. So we go to tools, NuGet package manager. Then here we can add, so you can add migration using two very important commands. So we say add migration, then we can say initial migration. So this initial migration will actually create a folder on our application called migration with a file called initial migration with the timestamp. So this will generate some of the code that we that needs to be updated to the database. As you can see, it will create a table called students with all these properties, and it will also add the primary key. So to actually affect now to update these changes to the database, we need to run another command called update database. So if you do update database, you should be able to add our table name to this. So if you come to the database, you should be able to see our table called students. So you can see we have our students table with all the properties that we had already added. So we have the first name, last name, email, phone number, address, city, state, zip code, and the country. Then we have our migration history table that tracks all the migrations that we are doing. So after doing that, then we can now add, we can scaffold our controller. So new scaffolded item. Then here we can do MVC. So we are actually doing API controller with action using entity framework core. So then you'll choose our model, which is student. Then our DB context, which is application DB context. Our controller name will be students. So then you can add. So this will generate all our endpoints that we want. So if you're new to this channel and you're watching our videos, please consider subscribing, like the video, and you can comment down below. So as you can see, our code is generating, and this will generate all the endpoints that we want. So you can see all our endpoints have been generated. We have our get students. We have here our get student by ID, put student, and all those information. So if we relaunch our app, you should be able to see these endpoints already there. So let me just refresh. So you can see we have these endpoints, get students. So this will retrieve all the students' data. Post, this will be posting the student, adding students' details. Get by ID, retrieve students' details by as ID. Then you can update and you can delete. So if you also check on our OpenAPI version, you should check that we have our students controller, and these are the endpoints. So we have the component schema student, then we have the endpoints. So let's see. So this is the request body, these are the parameters, and all this information here. So this is how it looks for OpenAPI. So I don't know how you find these guys, how it looks, but this one looks straightforward. So as you can see, this is our Swagger. So let's try to add students' details to our application. So I'll just put in here Jacob mover. So I'll just say mover at gmail.com. Then we say here 07 14 98 85 83. Then we can do here test, can do here Nairobi, can do here Nairobi, can do Nairobi. We can also do here, put in some characters. You can say this is Kenya. So if I execute this, then it should actually add the students to our database. You can see it has submitted data to our database, and we have this ID1 as the first record. So if you come to our database and the students table and you refresh, you'll be able to see we have that particular record. So we can add as many records as possible. So let's just try. So I'll execute this. So we haven't validated for now. You can actually enhance that. So we've added most of the data. You can see these are the information that we have. So if you come to get students and try to retrieve this, you'll be able to get this list of information from our application. So these are all information that we have. You can also retrieve a student record by ID. So if you do that and try here, you can pass the ID here. So we say 1, and you'll only be getting the student ID 1 with ID 1. So that's how you do, and you can also delete. So if you say delete, if you come to the database and check the last record is 40, so you can pass ID 40 here. So we just do try, then we say here 40. If you execute, then the record will be deleted. So let's just check. We need to have 39 records in our database. So you can see we have 39 records in our database. So we've actually gone through how you can set up the API in .NET 9 and how you can connect that to the database and how you can test it. So another way to test the API is actually using Postman. So you can use Postman to test your API. So let me launch the Postman, then you can we can see how that is used. So for those who are new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, like the video, and comment down below. So let me close. So let me just close some of the items that I have. So if you see, this is how Postman looks like. So let me open a workspace. So that is how it looks. So what you need to do is you need to copy the endpoint. So you can see here, if I try to execute this, you'll be able to see that this is the URL. So if I copy this URL and paste it here, ensure that the method is corresponding with what you have. So if I execute this, you can see the response that I have. So this is the response, and I'm able to see the data in a JSON. So this is how you have, and you can copy this response if you want to do anything with it. So you can see all this is the data. I can also update my application. I can also post data back. So this is how you can do that by coming to the post method. You copy this JSON, go to Postman, change this to post, and also go to body, then use raw, then JSON, then post the JSON there. Ensure the method you have here is students, so that is this. That's okay. So these API students. Then you can add here, let's say macro code test at gmail.com. You can say 07. You can put in some numbers. Say here test. You can put here, this is Nairobi. You can have this as Kenya. You can put in some characters. You can say this is Kenya. So here, once you do that, remember this is post, this is our endpoint. And if you send, it should actually add the record to the database. You see it has returned with ID 41. So if you go to the database, you should be able to see the record macro code test with that ID 41. So what I want us to do now is, if you go back to the Postman, I can also send another, can send some records again. So you can see it is adding. So as I send, I'm getting 46, and if I go back to the database, I'm getting more records. You can see these are some of the records. So you can also do the same to the ID here. So if you want to delete, I'll take the endpoint, come to the Postman. Here you'll do delete, and here you can do this and you can pass the ID. So we can do 46. So if I send this, and I can choose none there. So if I send this, you'll be able to see. So let's just confirm. ID 41, 46. Do you have anything there? So you can see it is deleted. If we pass 45 here and we say send, we'll we shall see here we don't have 45. So you can see that you can also enhance your API to ensure that it gives you results instead of actually giving you not returning anything. So you can see these are the data that we have. So that was a simple API walkthrough for .NET 9. So for those who are new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And in case you need the source code, you can claim the source code using the link down below. That is it for today, and see you in our next episode. Bye.